Do you think that Democrats will speak out anytime soon, or do you think Joe Biden's a winnable candidate for the Democrats?
Depends on who he runs against, and depends on whether his cognitive decline, which seems pretty obvious to me, as well as his physical decline, but especially his cognitive decline, become more obvious to the public. It's not at all clear that Trump can beat him. It is very clear that Trump holds a commanding lead among Republicans, and it's been striking how all these charges against Trump have so far not chipped away at the lead. Indeed, the lead has increased. Now, part of that is because Alvin Bragg, who filed the first charges against Trump in New York, filed very thin charges which should never have been filed against a former president. We say everyone is equal against the law, but when you start attacking people who are the likely candidate for the other party, you need to meet a very high standard, lest it begin to look like you are trying to take out political opponents. And that's the underlying problem here. Trump is facing all kinds of charges, many of them quite legitimate, but it looks as if the DOJ has really done everything it can to shelter the former vice president, now the sitting president, from any implication in legal charges that might face him.
I do want to read you something that Dan Abrams, he's the chief legal correspondent, that he said about Hunter Biden and this plea deal, and I want to get your response. He said this: if Hunter Biden's name wasn't Biden, he wouldn't have gotten that lucrative gig consulting for Burisma, no doubt about it. But he also likely would not have been charged with the crimes to which he has pled guilty. Those screaming about a double standard simply don't have the evidence at this point to back up those claims. What's your reaction to this? Because we did touch on it a little bit.
I'm not a lawyer, and I haven't practiced criminal law, so but before deferring to Dan Abrams, who has good judgment in these matters, I'm not criticizing him in any personal way. I've certainly heard a lot of lawyers say something different, and in particular, they say that the job of the Justice Department prosecutors is always to go for the highest level of provable allegations. And what we have here are a whole series, for example, of tax allegations which were never brought forward. And the IRS people are saying it's much more than, it's not what the Biden people have been saying, that, oh, he just filed a little late and he ultimately paid everything. They're saying there were huge amounts of unpaid taxes and that the amounts were much larger. So it may be that this slap on the wrist for these charges, which could have been done basically 5 years ago, that Abrams is right about that, but that doesn't mean that those are the only charges that could have been brought against Hunter Biden, and the favoritism looks pretty bad there. I wonder if those charges will be rejected by the judge on July 26th when the case comes forward. Now, the judge cannot require an independent investigation, and she can't require the prosecutors to bring different charges. That's an independent branch of government. That's the executive branch that brings those. She's the judicial branch. But she can reject the charges, and that would put a huge fire under the pot in the Justice Department. And I expect that the House committee, which has subpoena power, plus Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley in the Senate, who do not have subpoena power, but who do have people coming to them, whistleblowers, will continue this investigation. And I don't think we've heard the last of this by any means. I would also say that the media's role in general, the mainstream media's role, has been just atrocious here. They should be all over the investigation of this, as they have been in the Trump case. There's no reason why they're not. They've asked a few questions. There are a few stories. The New York Times ran one about the WhatsApp message where Hunter threatened the Chinese business associate, saying, "My father's in the room." We don't know if the father was in the room. We do know that Hunter got $5.1 million from that message, and that was far from the only money that he got. And according to the whistleblowers, they wanted to find out if his father was in the room and could have done that with geolocation information about Joe Biden's phone, and they were denied that possibility. The whistleblowers have also said that they wanted to interview a number of people and raid a location where Hunter kept documents, and that that was leaked to Hunter's lawyers by the executive branch, and that all that was cleared out, and that most of the people they were unable to get a hold of and interview. It stinks. I mean, that's the only thing. Whether there's a smoking gun, there's something that smells really bad about all of this.
Which makes